Looks like we've got it going here. I'm Moshe, and I'm coming to you today from Israel in the Galilee, and today is the 22nd of December. It's 7:53 in the morning, and let's see what our weather's going to be. It was nippy last night. Where does this go? There we are. 54, high of 67. Now that's encouraging. That could actually mean the house will warm up a bit. Sadly, tomorrow it goes down to 63, which is not great. And 51 tonight. And then, we go up to 66, then back to 67, back to 64. And they're predicting on Saturday pretty substantial chance of rain, like 65%, and 75% on Sunday. So we might, big storm. And Monday and Tuesday. Oh gosh, the dogs are going to hate it. So we're going to have a good run of rain, I guess. If they're showing rain for 4 days in a row, it's probably going to rain. Those stripes, we have shutters on the windows in Israel that keep the wind out. You don't have double pane glass. You have these plastic shutters that are a quarter of an inch, maybe, insulate from the cold. They're outside window, break the wind, and they keep, unfortunately, they keep the light out. So if you use it during the day, it's like you're living in a cave. And if you use it at night, it's good, but then you don't get any sunlight to wake you up. But I usually wake up this time of year in the dark. In the summer, I get up usually 5 or so. It's kind of light out. So Israel, when it's not too hot and not too cold, is great. It really is. The weather's, it's perfect. But we'll have a new heaven and new earth when we got the everlasting life. So we'll be probably having a whole lot better time with the weather. Okay. All right, we had new moon last night, by the way. It came out in the Galilee at about 5. I put it up on Telegram a little bit after 5 in the evening. I think it was seen. Yeah, I believe it was seen in other places in Israel. I didn't verify that, but it usually is. If it wasn't, my wife probably would have said something to me because that's on the unusual side. Okay, let's go take a look at the live stream. It's working again so far. Great, I got it restored. It's working again so far. Great, I got it restored. Okay. to put a post up here really fast while people are coming in. And I mean fast. Okay. I'll put a post up here really fast while people are coming in. And I mean fast. Typoed it already. Okay. I'll put a post up here really fast while people are coming in. And I mean fast. Typoed it already. Okay. Put a post up here really fast. Okay, looks like we got that done. Okay, looks like we got that done. And I don't think that worked. Don't know why, but let's do it again. I don't think that worked. Maybe it went to the top. Why? But did they change something else over here? YouTube, I wonder. Did they change something else over here? YouTube, I wonder. Yeah, I got it now. It was on me. Okay. We're good. And people are coming in. Great. Yeah, okay. I got it now. Thanks for all the people that gave me a greeting. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's do some praise, being a Bible believing site. And oh, this light, it's just the sunlight's just killing my eyes. It's right in my eyes. Okay. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover the destruction of the nations that God scattered the Israelites into. And it says that he scattered them, all the nations. So that's where you go with that. And we're going to cover a few scriptures on that in Zechariah and Jeremiah predominantly. And we're going to discuss why he's doing that, how he's going to do that, and when he's going to do that. Okay? I think it'll be an interesting study. Okay, there are some things to cover today in the news. Not a lot, but let's go through it. I put a lot of other news on my Telegram that I don't usually put here. They're different. The Telegram And what I talk about in the live stream are, they have overlap, but they're also pretty different too. Okay. Now, I want to do a heavy dose of spiritual warfare on a person we're going to call A, as in apple or alpha. Okay, this is going to be a big, heavy dose for somebody that really, really deserves it. Believe me, this person deserves it. Okay, this appears to be a severe hater of God and a hater of people serving God, and just full of hate. And I've seen God punish this person severely, and this person just keeps it up. I remember this guy when I first became, this is not A, this is another person that's been dead many years. When I first got saved, was trying to lead me astray and work in ministry, teaching people a millennial doctrine, and wanted to send me to all the churches to tell them that, God's not going to save the Jews and stuff like this. This is when I was a brand new believer, and of course I came out of it rather quickly. No, it took a little time, took a few years, but like 2 or so, I don't remember, something like that. Yeah, about 2 years roughly I came out of it. But I kept learning, and this guy taught me why the pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib raptures are wrong. So the church people, he was a pastor, worked at seminaries, had a PhD in Bible junk or something. And this guy was used to travel to Asia and India and teach this garbage doctrine. So at one point he got mugged, I think in India, and that caused him some difficulty. And then he didn't quit. He kept doing it. And then he got hit by a car and he got paralysis from the waist down. And that was basically including the bowels and the other stuff down there, right? So he then, he had plenty of money. He had a beautiful house in San Francisco, and he had rental units. He had that house had 2 rental units, and he had an apartment building across the street. So he was, pretty okay. And then I imagine he took the exemption. I never asked him for Social Security, but he had plenty of rent money coming in, and he wasn't hurting at all. I don't know if he ever paid the house off. He probably did. Okay, so he got busted up, okay? And he still kept it up. And he was in bed, and he was writing his study Bible. Back then, the Mac came out. It had a small screen like this. It was kind of a vertical thing. And he was writing his study Bible on the Mac. He did actually finish it. It took him a few years, and it was a bomb. Nobody bought it or anything like that. He sold some, but it was a bomb. So he was trying to do evil, and he was paralyzed, and then he would have to go to the hospital periodically because his system wasn't removing things it needed to remove. I'm trying to be tasteful. So he'd have to go over there for, a few hours and in an ambulance, and they'd bring him back. And then he had this thing in the bed where he had like a little triangle handle to pull himself up. He pulled himself up and fractured his arm. it was a real disaster, and he kept pushing forward, pushing forward. His wife died. They were quite old, and he married another woman that had a lot of money from her husband who died, and was financing uh, his Bible, his study Bible that he was going to work on. So he was against the Schofield stuff. He thought that was dangerous. So he was trying to do this. He felt it would keep the church in darkness better. He never told me that, but that's what. So he kept getting busted up. Well, this other person gets busted up too, and they just keep going. And when they stop, when they die, they know the Lord's punishing them, and they develop an extreme hatred for the Lord, and they can't, climb up on a ladder to heaven and go attack Jehovah or anything like that. It's absurd. So what they do is they attack people that are trying to serve Jehovah, because they'll become God's children if they did. So they try to lead them astray. So to them, it's like killing God's children. But, it says, deceive the elect if that were possible. It's not possible. God won't let that happen. The non-elect get it. They fall for it. Now, God might let you fall for it for a while to learn a lesson, but it'll bring you out of it. You all came out of the churches, didn't you? See what I mean? But you learned. And you can teach others. Okay, so this one is evil and rotten to the core. So we'll call this one A for Alpha. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose from this person A any and all unclean spirits. They have to depart from A. They have to depart from the spouse of A. And they have to depart from any and all children, spouses of children, and grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren as well. And the unclean spirits can never return to these people again. In addition, none of these unclean spirits shall go into any of these people for the next 1 year continuously, beginning now. None of these unclean spirits shall appear to these people, guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, give them advice, comfort. They shall not lie to them. They shall not deceive them in any matter. And they shall not give reassurances to these people that they're protecting them and helping them. And they shall never, these people will never see them for this 1 year. No matter what these unclean spirits do, they shall never see them. And if any person attempts to help them, guide them, lead them, assist them, comfort them, do spiritual warfare for them or anything, the unclean spirits will depart from that person, never to return unto them again, and no unclean spirit will communicate with that person, appear to that person, help, guide, lead, or assist that person as well for 1 year continuously. And this will have a chain reaction. If anybody attempts to help those people, then the same thing happens to them. And this begins now and lasts for 1 year continuously. And there's no workarounds, and this is put in place, secure. There's no getting out of it. And this person shall, when this person communicates with anybody in person, over the internet, or on the phone, the unclean spirits will go out from every and any person they communicate with and never return unto them again. And when this person is out and about, any person that comes within 25 feet of this person, that has an unclean spirit, the unclean spirit shall depart from them immediately. And the unclean spirit shall do nothing to help or persuade or reveal to any other person or unclean spirit that this person is a servant of the unclean spirits. And if any person comes into this person's house or their car or their property, the unclean spirits shall go out from them. And this all applies to the spouse of this a person as well. And these commands are done irrevocably, and these bindings and loosings and commands are done irrevocably. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I would ask you to please agree with me on this. And you could do that as a video or the live stream. And I can assure you, this person hates from head to toe believers, Jehovah, Yeshua. This person is evil and rotten to the core. Okay? Now, be careful when you come across somebody that said God showed them heaven, God showed them hell, or they come at you with dreams. Okay? Be real careful. The easy way to discern this is God would only do something like that with a person that was walking in the true gospel correctly. Okay, that's the first place to look. When you're hearing one of these false believers sell the people on a dream, like in social media or anywhere in person, at a meeting, it could be anywhere. To give the dream credibility, they frequently tell you details, like stupid stuff, like it was Thursday, the time was 10:16 in the evening. I was sitting in my easy chair, the red one, in the front room. It was cold outside. I had a little comforter on my chair, and I was taken into vision or dream, and they describe it in great depth. But what they'll never tell you is anything specific that's going to happen. Okay? Because they don't want to get caught in a lie. So they're going to talk to you in generality. Okay? They might condemn the church to make you know you're in sin if you're going to these churches, right? Tell the church has got, anything wrong with it, Then it's like, why are you going there, But they'll probably never tell you to stop going there. It's a sin. They want you in sin. They'll never teach you anything that's going to do you any good or any believer any good. Okay? They're not going to teach you spiritual warfare. They'll tell you there's demons in the church, witchcraft, but they're not going to teach you what to do about it because that's going against themselves. Now, they might present to you that they're out of the church, and you might know them on the internet, but what in reality they might be doing is going to the church and you don't know it. Okay? Because they're liars. Anybody that serves Satan is a dedicated liar. Okay? So, all their dreams and visions are not going to have anything that's going to help the believers. You know what that sounds like because you pick it up here. They're not going to get any of that. They're not going to get any true doctrine. No good, correct teachings. They're just going to get garbage. And if they're selling you on a vision or a dream, they're going to keep, during their talking on social media or wherever, they're going to keep coming back to the vision and the dream and trying to build credibility into it. But it's not credibility. They're not displaying any good fruit ever. A bad tree, which is them, could only have bad fruit. So you're never going to get anything from them that's going to help the people in any way, shape, or form, not just spiritual warfare, other ways. They're not going to get it. Okay? So if you come across people like that, just lay a heavy dose of spiritual warfare on them. That's all. And the people that do this are never going to practice spiritual warfare. They're never going to sit there and say, this is how you do it, and do it and teach it. Never, never, ever. You know what Satan will do to them if they did something like that? So you could bring up the question of spiritual warfare with them if you're not sure and see how they respond to it. Say, when was the last time you tossed a demon out of someone? That's going to be one they're going to be slow to answer. They're going to wait for the demon to give them an answer. And then you could say wait, hold on a second, I'll be right back. And then just pick up or walk away where they're not going to pick your voice up. Demon toss them and then rush right back and see if they're still there. If they go away, well, that's your answer, right? And if they're still there, they're going to behave very funny. They probably won't be there. They'll get very scared. Not only toss the demon out of them, tell the demon not to give them any explanation as to what went on. So that's going to scare them. And then command all the other unclean spirits to not talk to this person, appear, help them, guide them, lead them, direct them, or anything for a year. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, and you'll get them very, very screwed up. But don't feel bad about them. They're trying to send you to the lake of fire for eternity. And their beef with you is not that you did anything to them. Not that you lied to them, not that you deceived them, not that you ripped them off, you scammed them, you fraud them, you hit them, you burned the house down, you burned the car. You didn't do anything. Yet they just attack you because they think they can get away with it. But now, when you're following the true gospel, like here, they're going to very quickly know they can't get away with it. See, the only time the Satan bot is happy is when they're getting over on you. They're getting you to believe a lie, or they're cursing you, or getting you in a snare. Then they're happy. If they can't snare you, curse you, make life bad for you, they're very miserable about you. And they'll probably not want to be around you. Okay? Satan bots are sewage, you know? Okay. So let's go through a few things today in the news, because the news is also important. Some of you don't like the news, but it's important because we're told to watch, and you have to watch. Okay, many times we're told to watch. Okay. At least 16 files disappeared from the U.S. Justice Department public website for documents related to Epstein. It included a picture showing U.S. President Trump less than a day after they were posted, with no explanation from the government as to why this happened. Now, it was a picture with Epstein we're talking about. Okay. The missing files, which were available Friday, but no longer accessible by Saturday, included images of paintings depicting nude women, and one showing a series of photographs along a credenza and in drawers. In that image, inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photograph of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Very transactional crowd, my friends. Abominations. So the Justice Department is clamming up, and they're not telling you anything, and so forth. The thousands of documents released by the Justice Department related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was filed with the names of some of the world's most famous people, including former President Bill Clinton. But there was one notable exception: U.S. President Donald Trump. See, this just makes Trump look worse. The department, that's Justice, released only a partial tranche. That's an amount that's transferred or given, of the, it's a word that is really international wire transfers of a large amount of money is called a tranche. So I don't know why they use it there. But anyway, of the Epstein related documents in its possession on Friday, with much of the information within them redacted, citing the extensive effort required in reviewing the materials and the need to protect Epstein's victims. To protect Epstein's victims, all they need to do is block out two names at a time, redact, Sarah Blue or, Cynthia Brown or something like that. That's all they got to do. And the victim's protected. They don't have to block out paragraphs and whole pages or whatever they did. The redacting was extensive. So it's just making Trump look worse. I think this has taken Trump down. I believe that this will be the end of Trump. Let's see. We'll have to wait and see if it's really going to happen. But Trump has so many enemies, and this is a golden opportunity for them. So they're going to go after him whole hog, with the aim of impeaching him. And, you got to understand, impeachment doesn't involve any prison at all. It doesn't involve any fines. It doesn't involve anything except you're no longer president. That's it. Iraq has got some cockamamie scheme going with Turkey, oil for water. It's a little difficult to understand this, but so what's really going on is Iraq and Turkey signed an agreement in November of 2025 where revenue from Iraqi oil sold to Turkey is revenue from disappeared. Okay. Revenue from Iraq oil sold to Turkey is intended to help finance water infrastructure projects in Iraq, dams, water harvesting, and reclamation. Both countries committed to cooperation. So I guess the money is going to go to Turkey that has better technology than Iraq, and they'll go over there and they'll build projects to set up water for Iraq. Now, that's going to take 2 years probably. And Iraq is next to Syria, and Turkey's already putting soldiers in Syria. So this has obviously got some sort of pipe dream going on with Turkey, and I really don't think it's got enough time to work. That's my opinion. This is more funny than meaningful. Saudi Arabia has quietly expanded access to its only alcoholic beverage store in the entire country. I believe it's in Riyadh, and I believe they only let foreigners go there. And you had to be wealthy. So they're trying to give more people access. They're trying to modernize, the way of life in Saudi Arabia to attract more uh, business people that weren't Muslim or something like that. So that's something new for Saudi Arabia. They were leaving this there, so they have people that come there that work as mercenaries for the Saudis. They work as doctors, nurses, medical technicians. They build dams, roads, things that the dumbbell Saudis don't know how to build. Okay. The president of Colombia, the country, Gustavo Petro, responds to Trump's claim that Venezuela should return all the oil, the land, and property it took from the United States during Hugo Chavez's time. Now we know what Trump wants. They have the largest amount of oil reserves, larger than Saudi Arabia, which is number 2 in the world. They want that stuff back. Okay, so if they can't get it back from Maduro, then they're going to go to war and put a puppet in who will give it to them. And American oil companies will have the land for free. They probably won't pay anything to Venezuela. And that's another victory for Trump. The people of America don't really understand what he's doing. Colombia is the same deal. Not exactly, but they want the oil out of Colombia, and then comes Brazil. So I covered this yesterday, he's protecting himself from BRICS. He's on a campaign to take a lot of oil. He's going to get the Middle East oil and all of that. Russian oil he may not get. Then he'll just destroy Russia. Ukraine will destroy Russia. All they got to do to destroy Russia is give Ukraine a few hundred longer range missiles, like 400 or 500 miles or something. That's it. So the Colombia guy really got under Trump's skin. He said that Texas is occupied land, as is California, all of the southern United States. They were invaded. The land there was not bought with money. Well, they invaded the southern states. The Union took it over, and Texas and California were issues. So he's trying to, the people of America won't even know what he's talking about, most of them. So how does Trump ask for the oil back from Venezuela? Well, they bought it, I believe. Let's make a deal. They'll return to us what they took from us, and we'll return what they think we took from them. So he's just talking trash. He's saying, we'll just wait for Trump to respond. He's never going to respond to that. He doesn't have to. Trump just doesn't have to. Now, Trump just pulled another dastardly stunt that I'll tell you about that's pretty evil. You know how Trump runs around giving aid to different countries, right? Treating them like kings, and then people in America that get burned out of their house or flooded out of their house, they can go live in the streets, and Trump doesn't care about that. And there's a lot of them that live in the streets. My understanding is that Trump and the previous presidents are saying, well, Jehovah wants to bring floods to punish us over Israel and hurricanes and all this stuff. Well, when he does it and the people live in the streets, he can go take care of them. We're not going to. That's my version of it. I could be wrong, but that's what I think they do. Okay? But he's quick to help people from other countries, but look at what he wants to do for the Gazans. He wants to treat them way better than than his own people that got burned out in wildfires or floods and storms. It's a piece of garbage, guys. Think about it. He's just a piece of junk like the rest of them. He just talks better than the rest of them. He's a piece of garbage. He wouldn't be friendly with Netanyahu if he wasn't garbage. Birds of a feather flock together. The two garbage men. So the National Weather Service is saying that a historic winter storm up to 50 centimeters, that's only 20 inches of snow in several U.S. states, Wyoming and others. Guys, 20 inches is nothing. I could remember 36 in New York more than once in my life. That is major. They would close the school for 2 days, and sometimes the kids would stay out a third or a fourth day because they were having trouble getting there. It would take them time to plow the streets. So you see, what happens is they don't really, I don't know, they do some plowing on the major arteries, the major streets in New York when it's snowing heavily. So as the snow's coming down, they're plowing. But the side streets, they won't plow till after the snow stops. So you're really going to shut down the city for about 2 days. And that means deliveries to the supermarkets aren't going to show up, or only some of them will show up. And the supermarkets generally open, but not everybody's going to be there. But not everybody's going to go shopping either, because a lot of the people would just not want to go outside for a couple of days. They want to wait till all the snow is shoveled and, stuff like that. Okay. So I can tell you that 20 inches is serious, but it's not that serious. 36 is rough. 20 for a big city like New York, which is not going to get these storms, would be closure for a day probably. 20 inches could be major, Now, a lot of times there's snow on the sides of the roads from plowing from previous storms, and that builds up and gets worse and worse too. And then your other problem is the snow melts. Let's say it warms up when it stops coming down, the sun comes out, and it goes to 38, 40 degrees, something like that. Your snow turns to water, but not all of it. if you got 1.5 foot or 2 feet or 3 feet of it, it may not all melt, and some of it melts and it turns into ice because it's not going to evaporate. And now you got ice. So you get up in the morning and there's ice, slippery ice. So what the people do, like the janitor of apartment buildings, they'll come out. You have a shovel and you also got ice breaking things. So they'll smash up the ice if it's a good janitor and they'll push it into the gutter off the curb. Or if they're not so good and they don't have a tool for this, they'll just take big pieces of salt and throw it down around there. The salt causes the water to be absorbed. It's sort of like makes it, you got a grip when you walk. The grip is the uh, the salt. Okay. Now you'll be walking, and then there's a vacant building that was dismantled, and you're walking, and you got a 50, 60-foot area on the street where the others have all, broken the ice up, got rid of the snow, put salt down, and then you got this 50-foot stretch, but nobody did anything. And you got ice, and you could fall and really hurt yourself. So what do people do? If you got the right shoes on, the right Vibram sole, you should have spikes in it. But if you got one without, you got the right sole, it's going to improve your ability to walk, double or triple. So that helps. But if you're just walking around in leather shoes and you're going on the ice, it's pretty scary. So you'd probably want to walk off the ice. But the problem is, if you got that, there could be pockets of ice water that are 4 or 5 inches thick where the curb is. So if you try to walk off, your foot is going to sink in ice water. It's such an ugly place to live like that. I grew up there and everything, and I tell you, I hated it. Walking to school, I had to walk about a mile to high school. And my ear, I used to put a wool watch cap on that was real wool, but I think even the ones from the Navy aren't very good. I don't think they were ever that good, but it would be so cold, my ears would be frozen, sort of, not really frozen, but cold as all get up. And when I got into the school, they had the heat turned up, and it would melt. It would feel like my ears would be burning for a few minutes while they thawed out. Then your toes are frozen, your fingers are frozen. Your nose is cold as all get up, but usually from the breathing the warm air, nothing happens. And, it was just horrible. Then you start getting hot in the school because you're wearing very warm clothing. Oh, it's just horrible. I couldn't wait to get out of school there. So I got out of high school. I was rather young. I think I was 16 or something like that. And my parents had me go to college in New York City the first 2 years. They didn't think I was old enough to go out of town. Then me and a friend of mine worked up a thing where we were going to go to University of Waikiki in Hawaii. And my parents just shut that down. Boom. And my mother said, listen, you're not going 6,000 miles away. So that was the end of that. So then I went to Florida. So I'm a kid straight out of New York City. I think I'm 18 or something. I get on a plane by myself. I go down to Florida. I get a motel. And then I go to the college, and I they had a housing office to help you find housing, and I didn't know what the heck to do, so I found a place that was a rooming house where you had your own room, but it had shared bathrooms and showers, which I didn't care that much about at that time. So I moved in there, and I stayed there my first quarter. And then we went home for Christmas, and that was about 20 days. I think it was about 3 weeks. You got a Christmas break that you really had a huge break. I mean, I was hanging around with my parents' house when most of all the other kids went back. And then before we left, a guy I met that was living in the rooming house, also from Long Island, we rented a one-bedroom apartment, and we shared a bedroom, and it was furnished, and it had a swimming pool, and it was kind of, you know, that's what the kids did. Two of them shared a apartment. Staying in the dormitory was like a lunatic asylum. It collected very immature kids, and water fights, towel fights, putting toilet paper, toothpaste on the toilet. Stupid kids. Noise was high. I didn't like it. Uh, the noise level in the apartment house was it was all students, or 99%. So it was pretty good, except on the weekend. Then there was noise with the stereos, but you didn't have much noise. And it was pretty nice. They had a sun deck on the roof of the building. They had the pool with the shade lounges. It was about 2 or 3 blocks to the campus, which was a long way in the rain. I remember those walks in the rain were pretty long. Um, I had an Army field jacket from the Vietnam era, the good one, and I I used to use it, and it was pretty water resistant. Um, it was considered hippie attire, but I used it and it worked good. I liked it. I enjoyed it actually. I wish I still had it, but it would have been a piece of junk. I had it when I got it. It was used. I bought it in surplus. I think it was $4 or $6 or something. And if you want to buy a real replica, I think it's Alpha Products makes it, and you can get it just like it was in Vietnam. And they never had a better one than that. That was the greatest one. But they get like $300 for it. It's not worth $300. You know, not, not at all. Um, you can get surplus ones somewhere probably. Japan makes replicas that are supposedly even better, and they're about $1,000. Something different. It's an outdoor coat. You could buy stuff from North Face, or REI. I think that's the name of it, REI. And there's other places, and you could get a really good piece of outdoor equipment. You don't need that. You could also get surplus from other armies. But I remember that thing was great when I had it. I used it for some years. I used it for 5 years. It was really good. I didn't even have the liner. If you bought one with the liner, you could wear it in pretty cold weather, like, probably wear it at, as long as it's above freezing, you'd probably be okay. And then I had an Air Force greatcoat. It was wool that was probably 3/4 of an inch thick. It weighed a ton, and it was military. It was kind of a blue an Air Force greatcoat. It had the buttons, the round buttons with the emblem on them, and it was so thick that it would be rather waterproof for a long time. But once you got it water soaked, it took days to get it cool, to get it dried up. So you want to get it. If you were just out in the rain for 10, 15 minutes and it wasn't a severe downpour, you took it off and, it would dry up pretty quick the next day. But that thing was really, I remember in San Francisco waiting for the bus to go home from graduate school. I'd have the color up, I'd be down like this in there, and I wouldn't move. And it would be cold and rainy. I'd be in some doorway or something waiting as nighttime. And it would be really cold and ugly in the winter, with winds. So it's not going to be below 32. It'd be maybe 39, 40, but with a fast wind, it was really good. And that thing it really worked. But, when you graduate, you're starting to go to work, what are you going to, I mean, it's hippie wear, it was hippie wear, and this was already getting to the mid 70s, and who's wearing hippie wear anymore, So, so those two coats were great. Okay. Russia Shadow Fleet. There's about 80 of these boats. They call them a ghost fleet, a shadow fleet, the dark fleet. They're aging vessels with weird ownership. You can't get the clear title straightened out on them. One company owns a company, it's owned by a trust. It's stuff like this, or a foundation owns it. They disguise it pretty good. And they don't have proper insurance because the insurance companies want to know who the heck the insured is, and they spoof locations. And the Russian fleet frequently goes to Venezuela, and here's what's going on. Venezuela is not running their oil industry the way it was when Hugo Chavez was around, and the American oil company there. So they'll buy things that require very sophisticated, pure production, like naphtha, that Russia can make, but Venezuela can't. So they buying stuff from Russia. They also buy stuff from Iran. They're delivering product of various sophisticated petroleum products to Venezuela, and they're also stopping and dropping a load in Venezuela, going to other countries to drop a load. So Russian ghost ships are now running away from Venezuela because Trump seized the third tanker by Venezuela. So they don't want these boats, so they're staying away from Venezuela. So Trump accomplished the goal there. Venezuela oil production is basically, it's heavy crude oil, so it would be good for furnaces, home heating, things like that. It's too viscous, too thick. The viscosity is too thick to pump or export without blending with a lighter hydrocarbon like naphtha. Why Russia's now getting upset and hurt by these sanctions on Venezuela, and it's also interfering with Iran because they're doing the same thing as Russia. Uh, so really, there's three countries running shadow fleets now: Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. And they're scared, and I don't see any signs of any of them standing up to Trump right now, but that can change. Uh, so this is the third oil tanker in about 10 days in American grid. That's a pretty bad situation for um, Venezuela. Let me see what this is. I hope it's not somebody telling me we're buffering. No, it's nothing to do with that. That's good. Okay. To the Bible study, let me go take a look at the live stream, see what's going on over there. Okay. Uh, we're good. And people are coming in. Okay. Thanks for all the people that give me a greeting. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's do some praise, being a Bible believing site. Oh, this light. Okay. I'm going to take a break for a minute. We'll get into this. Okay. So I'll be back rather quickly. All right. And that was the important news that I could find. And I work it pretty thoroughly with newspapers and social media and all kinds of stuff. YouTube, Twitter, all of that. Need more wood later? It's going to be still cold for several nights, so probably.
on your next trips here are necessary in addition to these large things. Video later today is so funny about that. It says the guy's reading, he says, "Why I'm glad Jews don't have a Christmas tree." It was a tirade of the moral law that's written down that would have to be accomplished with this Christmas tree, and he just would be rolling on the floor by the time he's done.
By the way, guys, the Jewish people have a joke about Christmas. They said, "Well, you get a Christmas tree," and they said, "No, we don't have a Christmas tree. We have a Hanukkah bush." Well, there is no such thing, and you shouldn't get a Hanukkah bush because it's the Jewish Christmas tree. I mean, it's sort of humorous, but it's pretty stupid too. So it looks like we're closing in on Christmas. Let's see. Today is the 22nd. So Trump made December 26th the holiday to the government workers are not going to work. I'm sorry for the post office people in America. They would work on the 23rd. I think they closed early. Like the supermarkets would close early, then they'd close for the 25th, and then the 24-hour supermarkets would open at midnight or something, and they'd open the next day. I think it's going to do that. But what'll happen now is most of the people will get off early on the 24th. The 25th will be a holiday. They'll be closed, so they won't work, and then the 26th. But it's not going to give them an extended holiday, I don't think. Let's look. I want to be December. The 25th. This idiot thing doesn't tell you what month you're in. Third is Tuesday. 24th is Wednesday. Oh, they'll have a longer holiday. It's, I think Thursday is Christmas. So they'll have Thursday and Friday off. And then Sunday, the post office is closed. It's not, so they could take one day off on Saturday and get a 4-day weekend. And if they take the 23rd off, they have a 5-day weekend. Then you can actually take a trip. I remember flying on Christmas Day. Once or twice I did it from California to New York. I would think the airlines would be empty, but they're not. They're pretty crowded. Because a lot of people got to work on the 24th and then they fly on Christmas Day. So it was really crowded. Okay. As most of you know, it was a scripture that I've taught many times. And I'll read it to you today. It's Jeremiah 30, verse 11. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, speaking to Israel, to you, to salvation you. And that happens when Yeshua appears in the clouds. A full end of all nations. Now it's actually says goyim. That's the word. And it says all. So he's not killing all the non-Israelites. Because we keep reading, will not make a full end of, no, it says, will make a full end of all heathen, whither I have scattered thee. So why do we know the word goyim means heathen nations there? Because how could God scatter the Israelites into people, individuals? You can't. He scattered them into nations. Where the nations abused them, ran them out, stole their property, stuff like that. Okay. Though I make a full end of all heathen nations, I would say, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and I will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Okay. So he punishes Israel for their sins, but because the way the nations treated Israel, he destroys all the nations. Now let's see what we can do to set the time here. So we start in Jeremiah 30, verse 1. The word that came unto Jeremiah from Jehovah, saying, Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim of Israel. He's announcing who he is. He never says Jehovah Elohim churchianity, does he? Or denominationalism, no. Saying, write all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book, in a saith, in a scroll. For lo, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel, the 10 tribes, and Judah, the 2 tribes, Judah and Levi. Saith Jehovah, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Israel. When I caused him to rest. And he's talking about the next Exodus. The people which were left of the sword. Well, the nation was destroyed by Jehovah and also by other armies. Jehovah hath appeared unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore, this have I drawn thee. See, drawn thee to come to Israel. It's going to be done very gently and nice. Again, I will build thee, and thou shalt be of Israel. Well, the virgin of Israel is really virgin Israel, and that's because of the everlasting life, I would say. Thou shalt again be adorned with tabrets, shall go forth in the dance of that make merry. Thou shalt yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria, and that's grapes in the West Bank. The planters shall plant and shall eat them as common things. That's new heaven, new earth time. For there shall be a day that the watchman upon Mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise, you. Hold on, stupid iPad. All right. I don't know how it jumped 2 chapters, but um, is really giving me a thrill here. It keeps changing chapters. Okay. So I'm in Jeremiah 3, verse 4. Lo, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Jehovah. And so that's the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, and will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers. And they shall, because it really should have been theirs, passed on to their fathers as an inheritance, but everything got interrupted with the 2000. You can read Hosea 6, verses 1 and 2 for that. And these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, the 12 tribes and the 2 tribes, and the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes. And the 10 tribes aren't here now. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling and of fear, and not of peace. A voice of trembling, fear, and of peace. That's right out of the first few verses of Zechariah 12. Trembling. Ask you now and see what man does prevail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail is the process of giving birth, and it's like clutching your guts. Okay. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as the woman's faces are turned into paleness? Probably because the blood is rushing to their stomach, and they get chubby gray looking. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. He shall be salvation out of it. Jacob's trouble is Zechariah 12, because it says, in verse 5, I heard a voice of trembling and not of peace. Well, okay, the trembling and all that. We go to Zechariah 12, and probably around verse 5 there too. No, it's earlier. Verse 2, Zechariah 12:2. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling. There you go, trembling, unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. So the 10 tribes are not here. He didn't say Israel and Judah. It's Judah and Jerusalem's inside Judah. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burden stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Though all the people of the earth, all the people of the land, is what I believe it says, shall be gathered together against it. That day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah. That's called sliding into home plate. If he opens his eyes, he has his face turned towards you, and that's what you want. And will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors, the judges of Judah, shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, their strength is in Jehovah of hosts thereby. That's a more accurate translation. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among as fire coming out of their mouth. That's also a prophet. The two witnesses. And like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall its remain inhabited in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So then nothing happens. The English translations try to put Schofield in here or something. It doesn't belong. The Lord doesn't belong anywhere but the toilet. The Lord, not that the Bible is bad, Schofield is bad. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first. That glory of the house of David and the glory of do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them. Now, feeble means weak and stuff like that, wobbly, you know. Feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as and the house of David shall be as Elohim. The feeble will be like David, and David was a great warrior. He killed Goliath, he killed a lion, he killed the bear. That's how the weak, feeble, old people are going to be. You know, stooped over canes, walkers, and they're going to be like that, like David. And the house, uh, of David shall be that's the line of Yeshua, of course, shall be as Elohim, as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. That's the glory of God of Israel that led them, and they followed with the tabernacle, and that's Michael. And that's what it's going to be. Michael killed, I think, 140,000 in one day. That's what the house of David's going to be like. You see, his God is getting even with them, and I'm getting even with them for. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the heathen nations that come against Jerusalem. Well, now it says heathens, and it may not be nations. It may just be the heathens. So they all get destroyed. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. Okay, so now they're believers in Israel because he poured his spirit out on them. And then it says, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. That's Yeshua. And they shall all mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, bitterness for him as one that's in bitterness for his firstborn. Okay, so they mourn Yeshua, so they know their ancestors killed Yeshua, and they're mourning for him. And it goes on and it says, in that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem. And it goes on that the tribes of Judah and Levi are mourning Yeshua. The whole place is mourning Yeshua because they're there. And that never happened when they killed Yeshua 2,000 years ago. So don't let the church people tell you that's what that means. It doesn't. Impossible. Okay? Maybe when Yeshua was killed, 1 or 2 people mourned him, or 3 or 4, but that would have been push it. Now you're looking at if you go to verse 11, there's a great mourning, and in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Had Ramon in the valley of Megiddo. And Armageddon is Harmegeddo. Har means mountain, Megiddo. And they call it Armageddon. Armageddon. Okay. And the land shall mourn every family apart, and it names all the families. Well, that's certainly never happened. So you can see when they killed Yeshua. So you can see here the trembling and all this stuff. This is Jacob's trouble, and he gets saved out of it. Yeah, the 2 witnesses burn them all up. I'd say that's getting saved out of it. Then Yeshua appears, and they see him, and they become like him. Now, the pouring out of the Spirit first is very important, because we'll go to John 6:40. Where'd you go, 40? And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life the last day. So everyone that sees him and believes on him, well, pours his spirit out on them, they're believers, so they believe on him. That's why they're mourning. And when they see Yeshua appearing in the clouds, they get the everlasting life. And that's with Jeremiah 30. Okay? And that's when it happens. Zechariah 12. He's going to destroy the nations. Now, let me give you some reasons why he's going to destroy the nations. Okay? Predominantly because of Israel. Okay? God is mildly concerned when one heathen nation has a war with another heathen nation, and the Jews aren't involved, and it's not a persecution against Jews or anything like that. For instance, Pakistan fighting Afghanistan, which is going on. Taiwan, Thailand fighting Cambodia. That's going on. He's not very worried about that. I would say Russia and Ukraine's another instance. He does take note of the daughter of Beth because it's such a big bad thing. Okay. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he will be saved out of it. The day of the Lord, not the day of the Lord, that day, as they call it. It's the day of vengeance. That will lead into redemption. It also says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity. So let me show you a couple of things here that might prove a little shocking to you. Not that shocking, but shocking. Let's start with, what did Louis Vuitton just do? I've got a purpose here. Louis Vuitton is a manufacturer of luxury goods that are extremely expensive. A pair of flip-flops like 20 years ago or 15 years ago or something like that were $600, where you could buy them for $1 or $2. It says Louis Vuitton. Some people know you paid a lot of money for it, and they were $600. What a joke. Louis Vuitton built in Shanghai, China, okay, a metal steel ship, like a cruise ship, a big thing. I think it's 3 or 5 stories high and several hundred feet long or something. I think it's 100 feet high. And let me read it. Hang on. The ship is called the Louis. It's a stunning ship-shaped concept store. So it's actually a store and cultural space created by Louis Vuitton in Shanghai, China, opened in mid-2025. This immersive installation resembles a massive cruise ship, and the Louis docked in the city's hustling Nanjing West Road business district. Okay, so this thing is not in water. This is built on the street, on the sidewalk. Instead of putting an apartment building up, they put a cruise ship up there. Does this cruise ship have motors and generators and water desalinators? No, none of that stuff. It's not a real ship, but it's built as a real ship made out of solid steel. This thing would last 100 years if you keep painting it. It doesn't move. It's designed to celebrate Louis Vuitton historic roots in and trunk making, dating back to the 19th century, transatlantic voyages, structure. Okay, so what went on in, I could say, maybe the 1800s, but then probably very late 1800s, or let's say early 1900s. There was a lot of cruise ships back then. The country of America was booming. It was Europe before the stock market crashed, and people were stupid, and they were going around buying. You could just about buy any stock, and it would go up in value. So one of the big things that people did was they took cruises to escape the weather. So in the winter, they would cruise to the Caribbean from the northeastern, like out of New York and Boston and stuff like that. Probably Canadians traveled to New York and boarded a boat. Now they might have, at some points in time, might have ran ships directly out of Canada. I don't know. It would have been likely. So the New York to Caribbean, the boats were somewhat slower. Today, the cruise ships go at 25 knots, which is a little more than 25 miles an hour. They were probably running at about 12 to 15 knots. Yeah.
So a quick question. I'm going to be going to Tiberias soon to do that pickup. Do you want a cold breakfast? I should be back by 11. Do you want to wait till I get back?
I can wait. That's easy.
Fine, that's fine. That's all I need to know.
Okay. So, it probably took from New York 2 to 3 days to get to the island, wherever island you're going to go. It would just go into the big islands like Nassau, Bahamas. Maybe they went to one or two others. I don't think there was anything going on in the Caymans or the U.S. Virgin Islands or Bimini. You would be possibly hitting 75, 80 degrees in January and December down there. Now, the other times of the year, like your season for the Caribbean was and still is today, maybe October it starts and it's over in maybe April. So long season. After April, you're going to start hitting temperatures at 90 and more. And nobody wants that because it's uncomfortable down there. Now, back then, nobody wanted no air conditioning, right? But there were tons of cruise ships there. And there were also cruise ships that was common. I mean, really common. They would go to Europe they would travel around South America and they would go to Asia. But there was nothing to go to. They had Haifa before Israel was, it was Israel. They, there was some, cruises would go and people would stop and they would take a train from Haifa to Jerusalem, so the boat would probably stay 2 days or something, maybe, and they would go play tourists and see stuff. And, if you're talking 1925 already, there was stuff to see. If you're talking 1825, not much of anything. All right. So this is the bottom line. Louis Vuitton, when you took these trips, you were gone a long time. Okay? Not to Caribbean. You'd go to the Caribbean on the boat, and then you'd get a hotel with a beach, a nice hotel. It would probably need to have heater, and you might want to stay there a week or 5 weeks or whatever you want to stay, and then go back up, right? Back then, they would travel with their cars with them. So I think they just probably paid a $5 tax and got a sticker for the car that they could drive their car around there. There was no such thing as mandatory insurance and that kind of thing. All right. Same thing, they would take their car to Europe. They also would take their dogs and cats with them, mostly dogs. And they had kennels, special kennels for the dog. But I think if you had a suite, you could keep the dog in the suite. And they had an area where they had like a fire hydrant, and they had a street lamp for the dog to be on. Dog would think, "Oh, this is just like home. I got a fire hydrant." And they had like AstroTurf or some stuff for and the dog would smell the pee and the poop from all the other dogs, even though they cleaned it up probably 10 times a day. They had a team of people that stayed there taking care of the dogs. So the dogs would be in a kennel, not a little cage, something more substantial. And they would, come up and take them out of the kennel and walk around with them and hang out with them in the dog area, probably twice a day, keep the dog going. And the rich people that had suites probably had the dog in the suite. Okay. And they would have um, a bellman, would take the dog, or they would, up to the area where the dogs pee and poop, and let the dog walk around over there and, take care of his business. And then he'd come back to the room, you know. So they probably took him 3, 4 times a day up there to go to the bathroom, probably once when he woke up and once just before he goes to sleep at night. And then probably right after he eats, and then probably in the evening, 5 o'clock or something on that time. So now the rooms, if you were in a basic room, I'm not talking about steerage, because these boats didn't have steerage. They had, like a coach, class, and they had like a business class, and they had first class. They didn't have steerage where you had strangers in a room with you and you basically had a military bunk bed, and you didn't have a bathroom. You had a sink, and you ate in the dining room where the tables had 20 people on each side, like a cafeteria in high school, something like that. They didn't have that. They didn't have that. Okay. So they had This is the thing. They would be on these cruises for a long time, a lot of them. Going to the Caribbean was a quickie, you know. They would go to Europe, it would, you'd be, depending where in Europe, you'd probably be 10 days to 3 weeks, depending what you were doing, you know. And a lot of them took trips that, in other words, they went to Europe, but they didn't get off the boat in Italy and stay there for a month. They would travel around Europe, and in the summer, they would probably go where it was cooler, and in the winter, they would go where it was warmer, like the Mediterranean and stuff like that, right? And they would go to South America, maybe go to Ecuador, or who knows where they were going, Argentina, Peru, whatever. Go to Asia where it's warm, and um, what Louis Vuitton did was they sold people trunks, like a trunk. Now, when I was in the college, I bought a trunk. They were $10. It was $6. They were cheap wood with tiny, thin metal on it that would dent like crazy. And they were unreliable. You had metal closing, two things to close it with, and you had a flap that had a cheap lock, and you could lock that. Still iffy because the airlines throw around. So what people would do is take rope and tie rope very tightly around it, so it would also, in case something got bad, the rope would keep it closed. And I think these are $6.99. Okay, now that's not what Louis Vuitton made. Louis Vuitton made steamer trunks because boats were called steamers then. They had different kinds of motors that didn't burn diesel when they made steam. Okay, and it was called the steamer trunk. And these things came up, the good sized ones were at least 4.5 feet high. And you opened them up. So you stood them on the end, alongside the end, and you opened the thing up, and it had drawers in there, beautiful Louis Vuitton fabrics on there, you know, trimmings, beautiful things, right? And you could pull the drawers out and put stuff in there. And then they had other parts of these trunks. There was a place where you hung clothes and you could pull the hangers out and they would stick out from inside the trunk, and they had places to put shoes. What these people would do is they would bring 2 or 3 steamer trunks with them. So when they took the cruise, depending on the where they were going, they would get their clothes and stuff to a good extent out of the trunk. And then the cabin steward would see that the stuff got cleaned and circulated back in. So the trunk wasn't big enough to hold 6 weeks worth of clothes without, you know, because these people had formal dinner attire, they had sporting attire for like playing tennis or some badminton is what they really played, and stuff like that. But let's see what the price of a Louis Vuitton trunk is today. This will floor you because I know what it cost years ago, and that was a shock. But this should be, look it up yet. Let's find out. See, the steamer trunks were much bigger than the trunks I used to buy. The 699 trunks. If you took about 6 trips on airplanes with the 699 trunks, the thing was gone. They didn't last. Okay, let's take a look here. Well, it got worse than I thought it would. When I checked the last time, they were $25,000 for the good size large steamer trunk from Louis Vuitton. And this could even be a used one, but I was talking a new one. They do make new ones, and the high end early 20th century in excellent condition. This is Louis Vuitton trunks that are old, with the wardrobe style. That was what I was describing. The used ones range $20,000 to $56,000. Some of the special edition pieces in excellent conditions are $100,000 at auction. Now, new trunks, the cabin steamer style models on the new ones are, this shows you how sick Satan is. They're 38,000 to 73,000. The 73,000 is a baby trunk. I guess you buy that one for your baby's clothes. Editions like the Malay Courier are $40,000 to $50,000. They make smaller ones that are not steamer trunk models with the wardrobe and the hangers and the drawers, and it might have drawers. I don't know. These go $9,000 to $10,000. But that's not the steamer trunk. That's a different thing. So you've reached the point where Louis Vuitton selling trunks for let's say $50,000, and people are buying. You walk into Louis Vuitton, stock these things. If they don't have one in the store you walked into, they'll have one FedExed over there a day or two later. I don't know. You'll have one for you. It probably takes them a good day and a half to pack it up. They probably put it inside, maybe create some sort of padded car, ship it raw. We'd get busted up. So they would put it in. People bring $50,000 suitcases. All right. Now, when I was in the world and I was working, making a lot of money, I bought like a jerk. You can only use it on domestic trips. Okay, you got to learn this. You can't use Louis Vuitton luggage or any other designer luggage that has, logos and patterns that's expensive, because you're going to get an automatic. When you do customs, this automatic, step over here, sir. we need to inspect your trunk, right? Before we start, I want to give you a last chance to come clean. Do you have anything you didn't declare, like perfume, jewelry? No. Okay, sir. That's your last chance, right? So if we find it, this is do it, you're going to have a penalty. And if you start saying, well, what kind of penalty am I going to go to jail? Well, then they know you're guilty. I would just sit there. I wouldn't do anything stupid like that. Once in a blue moon, they would. At one time, I came off a cruise in Florida, and they went through my luggage. And what did it is, I had an expensive wristwatch on at the time. Okay, the way they check the wristwatch is they asked me to take it off. I wasn't happy to let them take it off, and then they look at the back of the watch to see how much dirt is collected there. So I take showers with at the time. It was this particular watch was a Rolex Deep Sea. I think they called it. It was waterproof to about 4,000 feet back then, and it was stainless steel. And they went and looked at it, and they saw soap scum built up in there, and they looked at it, and then she just, oh boy, it was like you let the air out of her tires. It was a woman. She wasn't an inspector. She was wearing a gun and had a gold badge. I don't know what the heck she was. I don't even care. She was really apologetic. She looked at my suitcase and she saw a pair of sunglasses in a box. She said, "What's that for?" And I said, "Well, I'm going someplace and I'm going to be giving it to the person as a gift." And I bought it in the Caribbean. And I wrote it on my declaration. It's written down there. And then she got really nice after that. Thanks so much for putting up with this and being a good sport. And we really appreciate, then she went the opposite direction. She said, "Oh boy, I got the wrong one here." Um, and I didn't have that luggage. I had the Rolex on. So then I learned a lesson. I spoke to the porter off, and he said to me, he said, "Believe me, it's the watch that did it. They're not after you or nothing. They saw the watch, and that's what they went after you for. They thought you bought the watch in the Caribbean and weren't declaring it, you know. So they look in your suitcase to see if you have the boxes from the watch, which is stupid. If you ever do anything like that, and you want to be a deceiver, which I don't try to do, what you would do is take the boxes and mail them to yourself if you want them, or throw them away, you know. But uh, so I was fine with them after that. So I didn't make it onto any lists or anything, but I traveled enough to see people get hit with customs. And what would they get hit for? They'd get hit for Louis Vuitton luggage, or some guy is wearing a $5,000 cashmere overcoat, or some woman is traveling with a fur, something like that. So the Louis Vuitton luggage is completely worthless for going on international trips. First problem you got is the people who work on the airlines know that's very expensive luggage. Okay, now this is a million years ago, 25 years ago. The roll-on was $2,500. That's the one you could stick under your seat. You pull it out and you're okay. Today it's probably $6,000 or $7,000. So they see that and they want to rob somebody's luggage, they'll rob that. But today I think everything's on camera, so they can't get away with it. So I don't think they robbed the luggage. But the customs people go after you, okay? Because they know they got a high probability that the chances of getting a good seizure or a fine penalty is probably 5 times greater with somebody with Louis Vuitton luggage than somebody that has cheap Kmart luggage, right? So you're always better with that. But there is a brand of luggage that they say is not breakable. But now you're going to ask me the name of it. I don't remember. But if you look for it, you could find it. They insure it against break, like blue nylon, and it's not very expensive, but you can keep using it over and over. I had a set of that stuff eventually because you could go out of it attracts no attention. And it's good luggage. It's not prestige luggage or luxury luggage. It's like a work tool. It serves a purpose. So I had Louis Vuitton size suitcase. That was thousands. Bought it used. And I think I had a Louis Vuitton attaché case that I got used. It was $5,000. This is, we're going back maybe 25 years, 20 years. We're going back a long time. That's what these things cost back then. I don't know today. So I would have my Louis Vuitton attaché case, my carry on, and then I'd have my big Louis Vuitton. So if you check into a hotel, you look like you're some kind of big shot or something like that. Is the luggage any better than regular luggage? No. Is it good? Yeah, it's real good, but it's not that much better. But it's good, no doubt about it. I had a Louis Vuitton passport wallet. I used it as a regular wallet. It was green, some kind of expensive leather. 25, 30 years ago, it was $900, I think. I had it for years and years and years. It was a fantastic wallet. I mean, it was expensive, but it lasted so many years. And now I have a camouflage wallet that I must have got 30 years ago. And I still use it today, and it was probably $5. It's a fabric. I still use it today. It's great, and then below, fit right in. So it was, for $5. I mean, it was a great buy. It has no sign of wearing out. I still use it. It was. The Louis Vuitton wallets, all of them wear very well. It doesn't wear out too much. It really lasts. They use a very expensive canvas. So now the other thing is in Singapore, Louis Vuitton has the same store in a ship, except the ship is a real ship in the water in a marina, and people go on the ship and go shopping. And I'm sure they have a place where you could sit there and have a light lunch, like a Caesar salad for $45 or $80, something like that. So people are buying luggage at this rate of price. Now let's talk about cars. Okay. It used to be the real expensive sports car. If you go back to the 70s when I got first Porsche 911S, 77, I paid 19,000 for it. Was 17,000. 17. It was no air conditioning in San Francisco. It was a 911S, beautiful car. It had a Blaupunkt radio, and that was standard and had stick shift, and that was it. I had the radio. That was the only option, I think. Yeah, that was it. And it came with laptops, which are crap. I I would always tell the dealer I'm not taking Dunlop tires. You shift them to Pirelli is the first choice in tires. They're great, but they wear out. And if you want something they're great in terms of giving you great traction at amazing speeds in the rain and stuff like that. The next best is Michelin. but the traction isn't as good as Pirelli. And Dunlop is better than than a Goodyear, but the worst choice. It actually changed over time, but I would either get Michelin or Pirelli. Pirelli are great. I never had a bad Pirelli. They're really good tire. So a good set of tires today, if you want to put them on a Mercedes or a Porsche, you're probably going to spend $3,000 to $5,000, and they'll be good for 170, 180 miles an hour. Not that you're going to ever go that fast. If you go that fast and you're not on the autobahn and they get you, they're going to put you in prison. You know, that's what they're going to do. Plus, you can kill yourself and somebody else. So it used to be that if you wanted to go to a Ferrari, I think they called it a 308 back then, it had much better handling than the Porsche. It was as fast as the Porsche, but faster. And it was comfortable enough. The Porsche would be more comfortable. And the problem with the Ferrari, they were in and out of the shop all the time. But the Porsches, you could drive them like a Chevrolet, you know. And then uh, over time, the turbo Porsche around the year 2000 was $119,000. Today, the equivalent to that in a Porsche is probably $250,000. It'll be faster, but it might have 719 or 420, whatever they had, something like that. So it'd be somewhat faster and all that. But the Ferraris, I mean, a cheap Ferrari or a Lamborghini today, is they used to be in the 70s. You know, they start at 400,000. The good ones are 800,000. Now, there's other levels of cars people buy, like McLaren and special models of Lamborghinis, and these things go over 1 million, and Bugattis get into multiple millions. You can buy some for 7 million. So you got to understand, there's people that think nothing about spending $1 million on an automobile, where most of you, me included, would be thinking about retiring. Maybe I can go buy 2 containers where somebody makes the 40-foot containers into a house and cut the big doorway and make them into one big good-sized house, have it insulated, have flooring put in, electric, solar, and furniture, and then buy a little piece of land for it. That's it. I'll buy that, and now I don't have to worry about paying rent anymore. That would be most of our first goal. That, right? Because that makes life a lot easier if you don't have to pay rent. It's the landlords that are killing you, and Satan's laughing his brains out. Okay, so if you go back to America, and right after World War II, there was a lot of places in America you could buy your classic 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot house with a little garden in the front and the back, and a 2-car garage and 2 bathrooms. You had a bathroom in the master bedroom. You had another bathroom someplace in the house that probably had a bathtub and a shower. And, you were paying as little as $2,500. The houses, maybe in some places, were 5,000. That's it. That's it. So somebody that worked as a clerk in a supermarket could afford to buy a house. I know in the 60s, the late 60s, we would buy used cars for $100 to $200. Everything is ruined. Okay. All right. In India, you could buy these cars for $3,000 or $4,000. New cars today, $3,000 or $4,000. They don't have the safety features that some, but not much. And it's $3,000 or $4,000. That's it. So you could go buy a cheap car for $3,000 or $4,000 and what? If in my little community, which doesn't have sidewalks, if I want to buy one of those little electric cars to go to the store with and stuff like that, it's going to cost me more than $3,000 or $4,000. And that's not a real car. You can't take it on the road. They got tires like this, and. So it's insane, right? But you're seeing people dropping multiple millions of dollars on cars. The Rolls Royces and the Bentleys, they're you at 400,000 and up. People often buy them. They're $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. If you bought a Cadillac Escalade for $125,000, would it be every bit as good as a Rolls Royce? It'd be different, but it would be pretty good. The big difference with the Rolls and the Bentley is they might last 25 years. Once you get past the 3-year warranty on the Lincoln or the Cadillac, you're going to have trouble with it. I wouldn't keep it. They're good as long as they're on warranty. And then when you want to sell it, you sell it that it has, 3 months or 6 months warranty left, even 3 months, and then tell the person, hey, you don't have to worry if there's something wrong you don't know about it. You got 90 days. And then it's warranty. Whatever you want, I'll fix it for free. Well, you can do it with 6 months left on it, then anybody will take it. Because they know that, you're going to shake it down. But there's things that aren't warranty, changing the clutch, changing the brake pads, flushing the radiator, so there's things you might need to do, like take the radiator out and have it all kinds of cleaned and flushed, welded for leaks and stuff like that, and put it back in, change the water pump, redo the brakes, drop the transmission fluid, put new transmission fluid in, change the windshield wipers, new tires, stuff you're going to have to do, and bring the car in for an alignment, maybe change the alternator, things that are going to be most likely to go. Well, with the Rolls Royces, they're different, but what do you need the thing for? What do you? Yeah, I mean, if you live in Beverly Hills, there's so many of these lunatic cars on the street, you can park it on the street. It's normal. There's a million of them there. But somebody could walk by with a key and just scratch your car out of spite. So they give you a nice 24-inch scratch down the side of your Rolls Royce or Bentley. It's going to cost you probably $8,000, $10,000 to get it repaired with the paint, because they're going to have to take the whole section of the car and paint it to get it to match the other quarter panels. And if the car is a year or two old, it's not going to be that hard to do. Probably just paint from the factory will do the trick. But if the car is 5 years old, you're going to probably have to paint the whole car, and a Rolls Royce or Bentley paint job is probably going to be $14,000, $18,000 or something like that. And people are doing this now. It's sick. Okay. let me give you some figures on distribution of wealth in the world, but these figures are from the rich that own the media. I think they're not really balanced figures. Okay. The richest people, this is the 1.6% of the people, this is worldwide, own nearly half of the world's wealth. So what I'm telling you is 1.6% of the people own almost half of the world's wealth. I think it's hard, but that's what they admit to. The remaining 98.4% of the people own the other half of the wealth. And the bottom half, they own nothing, which is probably most of you. I mean, you probably have no realistic equity in your house of any substance. You don't really own anything. You don't have any income producing items. You don't have factories. You don't own apartments. You don't own hotels. You don't own copper mines. Well, what do you own? You're going to say, well, I got equity in my house or my car or something. Come on. You have no income producing anything. So the rich people, the 1.6, have about half the wealth, 1.6% of the Satan bots, and they're Satan bots, have as much money as 98.4% of people have. Okay. Do you see how sick this has become? This is Satan. Okay. He tells his people that they're never going to have any money if they're not working with the devil. And that's not true. The Lord showed me that and proved it with me. But I didn't have $5 million or anything like that. If you had a lot of money like that, I think somebody would say, oh, I want that money. And they would sue you in court. Why would they have non-Satan bot judges? You tell me why. I don't think they would. If they can't rig the system, they don't have it. Anything you could bet on, or they wouldn't have it. Never. They would just judge and take you to the cleaners for no reason, just to get you, because Satan would assure them they'd never get prosecuted for it. That could be why Yeshua said, settle with them on the way. Now, he's talking about somebody that did something wrong. But even if you didn't do anything wrong, they're going to jam you up anyway. So, this is one area Satan is jamming you up. I was talking to somebody on the phone. I was on speaker, and I used the word that is a derogatory term for gay people. And the person screamed and threw their children out of the room, because if the children hear it and they pick that word up and use it at school, I'll be getting called into the principal's office. Now, that's not anything we remember at school, where to get called into the principal's office, you would pretty much have to smack somebody. I couldn't imagine anybody being called into the principal's office for words. It never would happen. We'll call you in for words. What for? Never heard of that. We all used to insult each other for race and stuff like that. That was normal in New York to insult each other. It was playful. Everybody would do it. Nobody cared about it. So Satan wrecks the economy. Look what's happening to the United States, what the debt is, and all the other countries. And then they water down the money supply, where the money becomes worth less and less and less and less. In the early 70s, when I was in graduate school, they were in advertising and they went back to school to pick up an MBA. And that was what I was doing, was MBA. So in a lot of places, if you wanted to become a sales manager or a branch manager or a product manager or a vice president of something in sales, you pretty much would need to get the MBA. It was just starting then, but it was, if you got the MBA. When I got the MBA, all you had to do was roll in, send resumes out, and boom, the phone rings. Somebody with good money. It was easy, but then it got watered down over the years. People were getting MBA courses sitting on the train commuting to work. They'd sit the train would be a classroom, and they'd sit there and they'd have a teacher giving them a lecture. And they were getting graduate credit for it as if they went to a real college. And I went to a real college to get mine, but they start doing it like this, and I understand that you can get in most states practicing lawyer over the internet. You don't even have to attend law school. I had friends that went to that went to law school and flunked out. The ones that went to the good law schools like Stanford or Berkeley or some others that were good, they generally didn't flunk out because they had high standards. They only took them if they did good on their LSATs, law school aptitude test. They had other that were non-accredited law schools where you didn't go 3 years, you went 4 years. And they washed them out in the first year. Not that many made it. If you made it out of the first year, you probably made it. And then there were people that went to law school in Berkeley and places like that, and they got out of law school fine, but they had to pass the bar and go to take these courses that would be like 3 months, and they would try not to teach you law. They would try to teach you the bar. Now, some law schools would teach you how to pass the bar, and others would just teach you law. None of them taught you how to practice law and fight the big firms. There is no such law firm today. No law school ever teaches you that. So you become skilled at nothing practical, except passing the bar exam. You can actually, if a guy's a lawyer or a gal's a lawyer, and they put you in like as an apprentice, and you work with them for a number of years, I think it's 3, 4, they can make you a lawyer. You can become a lawyer, but you still need to pass the bar exam. So you take these courses, I think they got them, they're 6 or 8 weeks or something like maybe 12 weeks. I don't know. They're pretty extensive. And it's people that flunk the bar and they take that course 2, 3 times. And usually, eventually, they pass the bar. They just keep studying enough and enough and enough, and they'll pass it. Maybe I got to get this to roll their way where the questions are, the kind they can answer. I don't know, but so the rich got such opulent wealth, and they're Satan bots. You don't get jobs like that if you're not a Satan. I know someone that's a studio musician, a real studio musician for recordings and stuff like that. Or if some celebrity is going at a concert or maybe a county fair or something like that, and they might get paid 25,000 to do a show, or they might get more. They might get 100,000 or 200,000 to do a show. They'll hire musicians because they need musicians to play the music. They're doing the singing. So they hire studio musicians and they put them together and they rehearse and they do it. And they'll pay them, maybe $1,500 to do the show, and they'll make 100,000, you know. And why do they get that money? Because they're Satan bots. They're transactional. Stuff like that. So this is one of the reasons they're going. They got the people, Satan's people got so much money they don't know what to do with it. And the other people are sweating paying their rent. And they make fun and laugh at the people that have to pay them rent. Jared Kushner has something like 400,000 apartments or 250,000 apartments. He owns that many apartments. Can you imagine what that's like? Getting rent from even 250,000 every month. You get rent from 250,000 apartments. Does that mean they're happy? He's transactional. Look at the record cover. You could do it online for Sgt. Pepper's band, the Beatles song, and you see a lot of faces of people on there. They're all transactional. It's common knowledge. They're all transactional, every one of them, and that's why they're a Lonely Hearts Club. I don't want to get into. We're not supposed to talk about the things they do. Um, what they're doing, it says in the scripture, they parted my land. I'll be back in a minute. We'll go through that scripture, parted my land. And I'm going to show you that it's about 30 countries that have parted the land. And Trump's right up there with them. All right, let's get first. Joel 3, verse 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them to the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people. It's not plead, judge is the right word. Judge them for my people and for my heritage, Israel, the inheritance, the land of Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Saudi Arabia gets a piece of land, Gaza, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Yemen, Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, parts of it only, of course. And then you have Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, getting parts of the land. And they keep it, and they pump the oil, and they live there, and they don't have any intention. And they even call God a liar by denying that it was ever done, that God ever gave it to him. Okay? And also how they treated Israel when God scattered Israel into the nations. It says in Zechariah 1, he was just a little angry with us, and they increased the punishment more than he wanted. Hitler, Stalin, the Russians, the pogroms, the Spain, Portugal, England, they're all that way. So it's, a pretty bad thing. I'm going to be right back. I got to put the heater on for the water. A few seconds. I'll be right back. Please pray that the irritation I just got on my skin would be healed. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go through Joel. And that'll help us with some timing chronology on this. Now, the book of Joel has the day of vengeance and the day. One is Zechariah 12, that day, the day of vengeance, and the other is Gog and Magog. And when Gog and Magog is over, Yeshua comes down with New Jerusalem. That's Ezekiel 38:39. So we need to understand that in the book of Joel, chapter 3, we get both. Before I get there, we have Jeremiah 30, and then we have almost the same thing in Jeremiah 46:28. So this is not just some obscure scripture. You have two witnesses for it. It's in two places, so to speak. Scripture is scripture. You don't need two scriptures for it to be true, but people talk like that never think it through, so I'll just throw it out there, but it's not. Scripture is scripture. One scripture is enough. But anyway, if you want to go by the two witnesses, it's not really correct. But here's your other one, Jeremiah 46:28. Fear thou not, O Jacob, my servant, 12 tribes, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee. Okay? For I will make a full end of all the heathen whither I have driven thee, but I will not make full end of thee, but will correct thee in measure, yet will not leave thee wholly unpunished. Now, there's a lot of churches that run around saying, it's not going to be a nation anymore. Well, contradict the scripture, don't they? Yes, they contradict the scripture. Okay, so it's also in a second place. Okay, Joel 3. It's a rich chapter. Let's go, verse 1. For, behold, in those days and in time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations. Okay, so it's saying here in verse 1, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Now, he doesn't say Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. He says Judah, Jerusalem. That's who's here now, Judah, Levi and Judah. David, line of David is Judah. Levi, it's Guanim. Okay, Zadok, right? And Jerusalem, Zechariah 12, clue. Because the 10 tribes are not in Zechariah 12. Okay, not yet. They're still lost. They don't know who they are, I would say. Okay, I will also gather all heathen nations, or all heathens, and this is heathens, and will bring them. So he's gathering all heathens, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead its judge, and will judge them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay, so they were all very happy giving these Muslim countries the land of Israel. Okay, hoping the Muslims kill the Jews. So this is not Gog and Magog. This is, now. It may take a little bit more time days or weeks or something, but it's pretty much now, kind of. My heritage, Israel, and I, they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Well, the land is still parted. When you're in Gog and Magog, it's not parted anymore. Different, right? Okay. 3:3. And they have cast lots for my people. This is a throwback to the past, I would say. And given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, I believe, and all the coasts of Palestine? It's Gaza, because Lebanon's on the coast. You drop down, you have Israel, and you have Gaza, and so and all the coasts of Palestine will. Well, you see, all the coasts of Palestine are, we have part of it, Okay. Will you, but Palestine to me means like Gaza and, not occupied by Israel, I would say. And what have you to do with me, O Tyre, Zidon, and the coasts of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? Year of recompense. Clue, year of recompense. Will you render me a recompense? Well, they've tried it. Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon, all trying to attack us, right? Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Did Gaza win? No. Did Lebanon win? No. Did Syria win? No. Did Iraq win? Sort of, not really very badly, and they didn't do that much. Did Iran win? Oh, how's the water supply in Iran? How's the water supply in Iraq? Recompense. And Yemen, they haven't finished with Yemen and Iran yet. I can tell you that. Because you have taken my silver and my gold. Now, this is going back to the artifacts out of the temple, the Babylonian. The new version of Babylonian is daughter of Babylon. My golden have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Greeks, that you might remove them far from their border. This is next. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither you have sold them. So this is the fight for now. The running them out of the land of Israel is a long time ago. This and will return your recompense upon your head. This is for now. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah. See, the 10 tribes aren't back yet. And they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, Africans, I would say, to a people far off it. So slavery, I keep telling you that it'll be there. Proclaim you this among the heathen, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshare. Now, you see, this is different now. Beat your plowshares into swords. Well, they have not yet beat their swords into plowshares, and their pruning hooks into. They haven't made the swords into plowshares and the spears into pruning hooks, let alone reversing. So this is the Gog and Magog days, Ezekiel 38, 39. Okay, you got to be careful here. It's run on. It's confusing. Not a lot can never understand it. They're going to go with the Schofield explanation. Okay. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourself and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. I guess those are the angels. For the heathen, the Goyim, be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge, not plead, judge, all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. That's your harvest. That's your Matthew 13, the tares in the wheat. Come get you. They don't have the harvest in Ezekiel 38, 39. Really reading that there. Is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near. Now, the day of the Lord is your Ezekiel 38, 39. Okay. The sun, okay. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and shall withdraw their shining. Now that's the sign of the end of the second 70, Gog and Magog. The two 70s in 24 says 70, 70. It doesn't say 70 weeks. No Hebrew translation says 70 weeks. It's a joke. Schofield joke. It's the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their light. The first 70, which is when Yeshua appears in the clouds, the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood. When the sun goes dark, the moon goes dark, and the stars go dark, that's you're coming up on the end of Gog and Magog and the return of Yeshua with New Jerusalem. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heaven and the earth shall shake, but Jehovah will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall you know that I am Jehovah Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down. Wait a minute. In that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine. That's the new heaven and the new earth after Zechariah 12. And the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Egypt shall be a desolation, and that'll be probably the beginning of their 40-year diaspora. And Edom, that's Yemen, shall be a desolate wilderness. Amen. For the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. Okay, so what you're getting here, that's how I'm interpreting this. And it's saying Judah. It's not saying, 12 tribes in Judah. It's just saying Judah, which is who's here now. So this is not Gog and Magog. The Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38, 39, the 10 tribes we have all the land back. That's not the case here. So it's not the great day of the Lord. See, it moves around. You got to be careful. And you're not going to discern it correctly unless you know your prophecy. Shed innocent blood in their land. Their land is our land. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood, not he's going to do it, that I have not cleansed. For some of the blood he did cleanse, and that would be the believers of today, for instance, right? Because your righteousness is of Yeshua, and Yeshua's righteousness is righteousness. Full righteousness. Okay, it's not weak righteousness, it's full on righteousness, okay? I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Jehovah dwelleth in Zion. Now that Jehovah dwelleth in Zion refers to the glory of God of Israel, which I think it's Exodus 23, verse 20, where he takes the glory of God of Israel, Michael, and puts his name in him. So if he puts the name Jehovah in Michael, then he can say he's Jehovah, receive offerings for Jehovah, and so forth. So you don't know your Bible, you don't know your prophecy, you don't understand this stuff, you're never going to understand the prophecies. And that's just the fate of the churches. There's no such thing that we have to limit the amount of believers because Jehovah doesn't have enough blessings or land for all of us. That's an absurd idea, because he does have all that. think I covered what I was trying to cover today. I would say that when the distribution of the wealth is so bad, like it is around the world today, that's when everything's going to fall apart. Because the Lord gets mad at what Satan's doing. He wants the people living in poverty and they live in wealth and abundance. And then the next cycle after that is the wealthy become royalty. And then immunity from the law. And so, in other words, they could shoot you dead in the street and just walk on. Nothing happens. They have weapons, not you. You know, that's how they are. And it helps Satan recruit. Oh, you're holy, godly children. I'm God. You're my children. He's such a sick liar, pathetic piece of garbage. You know. So remember to give it to the alpha person, A for alpha person that I talked about early on. This person is really a problem. This person needs to get extreme spiritual warfare. That cannot recover from it. It's just going to collapse them. Because this piece of garbage tries to collapse other people that try to serve the Lord. This is garbage bucket. I can't tell you. This one is so freaking evil. It's like, Mengele or something, an abomination, you know. Okay. So I'll get prayer for all of us. My Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for all the true believers. I pray that you would loose off of us any works of the unclean spirits and those that serve the unclean spirits. And loose off of us dreams or visions or prevent them from ever occurring coming from unclean spirits of those that serve them. And I pray you would loose off of us any witchcraft, sorcery, curses, hexes, vexes, spells, enchantments coming from the unclean spirits of people that serve us or our households or anything we own, possess, control, set our hand to. We have strength, stamina, and endurance, and I include my wife and me in these prayers too. And we will have the healing and recuperative power flowing through us, and it would heal whatever we have to be healed daily. And I pray that we have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped or stranded with any cars or vehicles or transportation modes. And I pray we don't get robbed, ripped off, scammed, frauded, or anything like that. We don't get discriminated against. We don't get picked on. And I pray that we would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And our animals and pets would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray that our animals and pets don't fight with the wrong beasts or people, but if they do have to fight with the beasts and people they have to fight with, they would be unharmed and victorious. And I pray they don't run away, get stolen or lost or anything like that. And what else? I pray we can be at peace with our own house, co-workers, our employers, and I pray we don't have any problems from Satan bots or demons, that these problems go away. We don't have any problems with employers or co-workers or neighbors, that these problems would be gone, and we wouldn't have any problems from governments or corporations or businesses. These things would be okay. Let's see. I pray we have adequate finances and then some. I pray our sleep would be sweet and we would wake up at a good hour and have no trouble getting to sleep, being asleep, staying asleep. We wouldn't have any bad, upsetting, distressing, bad dreams or nightmares, just nice, soothing, calming, relaxing, enjoyable dreams. And we wouldn't have anything that would disturb our sleep and make it hard for us. And we get no darts from the enemy, from the unclean spirits and those that serve the unclean spirits. And the unclean spirits can't surveillance us in our house, our car, or our vehicles, and they have no way of knowing what our communications are with other people, be they in person, be them on telephone, be them. And I pray that we be happy and rejoicing, and I submit this to you, my Father, Mashiach, and you can agree with it. Okay, and Heavenly Father Jehovah, I also, if you're a believer, you can agree with it. My Heavenly Father, I also pray, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, that you would speed up as much as possible Zechariah 12 and the day of vengeance and redemption with Yeshua appearing, and I pray that it would be as quick as possible, and in the meantime, you would comfort us and give us peace, joy, patience, calm, and rest, joyfully waiting for this. I pray B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. Okay, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach and Father God Jehovah. And I'm pray that you make the videos better. B'Shem Yeshua, and you can agree as a believer with all these prayers. And I ran over in time, but I'll get something out of it. And I'm out, guys. Thank you.